Hello, I am going to show you my final project here. This is the Canvas page that I designed for my Canvas practice. I did go ahead and title it and give it a thumbnail of US History Sandbox because I plan on utilizing this sandbox next year. So if I go ahead and open it up, I can show you that I created a welcome page. I am switching schools next year, so I did put some information in for my current school, and then in my welcome page, I did transition over to what information I have about my new school. So on my welcome page, I have a lot of information about myself. I have information about how to contact me, where I'm located. I have a little welcome message, the bell schedule, the counselor's forms, things that students might need right off hand. If we go then into the modules that we had to design, I put down, welcome to US History, your journey through time begins here. I like to kind of tell my students that they're time travelers and that we're learning about history as we are traveling through time. In fact, I have a few projects that I do throughout the year that are kind of time travel projects. So that starts off my welcome message of telling them, welcome aboard our time traveling journey through American history. I talk a little bit about the class's learning objectives. It's a one-year class. I tell them what we're going to be learning. I talk about the classroom expectations, which I like to put down in bullet points, and why I'm so strict about my rules and what I expect from them as students. I then went through the grading scheme. I talk about why grades are important. I talk about how we break up summative versus formative grades, how they can retake assignments if they wish to, and I went ahead and I posted the grading scale. I also have About Your Teacher section that was built into the template where I put a little picture of myself, and this is where I kind of humanized my Canvas page. Talks about how much experience I have teaching, and really tried to stress that I am a creative, think outside the box teacher. I like to kind of add a little flair of creativity to all of my lessons. And I, like I said, humanized myself with talking about how I'm a stained glass artist outside of the classroom. I really like to travel, eat new foods, and really into my rescued dog, the Phoebes. So kind of brought back that idea of traveling with me through time with creativity. And again, I listed some contact information. I went ahead and I put a few other sections in here about how to be a good online student, since I will be teaching NVLA next year. And I wanted to talk about being a good digital citizen, and I put a little video on here that talks about being a good digital citizen. Canvas resources, I kind of just left the same here for students. The how to annotate assignments, I liked that, so that was left in here as well. And then I also put in a section where I put the class meet codes, since that's something that students are going to have to access every time we have class. In case they forget, they can just go ahead and click on their period and they can find the meet code. I ended this section with a practice assignment. What the practice assignment does is it allows students to kind of showcase where they are doing their learning. I did a picture of my office, and I like to do this one because not only does it allow me to see where my students are doing their work from, since I won't be able to see them in a traditional classroom, but it also allows them to kind of practice attaching files because I do a lot of creative assignments, and so that's important for me. Okay, so after we get done with that, in my course map, I did one of the modules on the Vietnam era. So I decided to build my module out on the Vietnam era. And the structure that I used was the overview with the learning materials, the assignments and the discussion, and then to end with the summary and looking forward. So with the overview, again, just trying to keep it very organized. I give a little brief excerpt on the entire era, and then I broke it down by sections and what we're going to be studying with bullet points. And then I went ahead and I have all of the learning materials listed right up front. So we have the text that they have to read about the Vietnam War, and they can pop that out. They can save it if they need to. I have graphic organizers that I've created about the Vietnam War. And again, these can all be popped out and they can be saved if students want to save them for viewing offline. I have a few videos, which I have plenty of other videos also incorporated into some of the lessons and things that we're doing. But here's just some broad overview videos that I have posted for students to learn about the Vietnam War. And then I start with a quick formative research questions section. And with each question, they should be able to go into the reading text that I provided, and I gave page numbers that they can find each of these answers. But besides using the actual text, I also have some links that they can check out, and some even have videos that they can then click on and they can answer those questions by watching the videos. And I did use this one in my other classes, so I was able to just drag this one over from a shell that I already have made. Most of the other projects that I created for this are ones that I made specifically for this class, because when I made the map, I didn't realize I was going to have to make all of them. So I added a lot of things, and then I looked at it and said, okay, well, it would be kind of good to design these for future usage anyways. So one new one that I created that I put on my map was a document analysis. So the students, I'm going to have them analyze the Pentagon Papers and use real footage. And I start off with an introduction, and then I talk about the Pentagon Papers. I have a link for them to go to the Pentagon Papers, as well as questions that I want them to answer. There's some newsreel footage. I have 2 links for them to click on. Again, questions that I want answered, and then how are we going to compare those sources, and a conclusion. For everything that I created, I did build also a rubric to help me grade it. And oftentimes what I will probably go back and do if I decide to use that project is I will then also put in a template for students to open up, and it'll take them right to a Google Doc where they can just put all of their answers. I usually pre-build those out for my students. The Socratic seminar that I could even do online with students. I plan on using breakout rooms to do these Socratic seminars. So we talk about what we're going to talk about. Why did the US go to war in Vietnam? I have steps here to get prepared, what they have to think about, how many questions they should be asking, what type of questions they should be asking, and then we will go into breakout rooms where everybody will be given a role in the breakout room that I have posted here, and then we come back into the main room where we will do a whole class discussion and have kind of a follow-up discussion question. So I plan on building this one more as an assignment versus, even though it's a discussion, I didn't want to use the discussion format because it's more of an assignment. I have a reflection part of it, and it's multi-tiered, so I felt that it was better to set it up as an assignment. And once again, I also have a rubric. The next assignment that I put together was a research project on investigating major military operations and battles in the Vietnam War. Again, I start with the objective, the instructions where they have a list of choices where they can come up with one on their own and get approval from me. I talk about how to conduct the research, create a poster on Canva, and then submitting it with, again, a rubric. I love using the rubrics because it allows students to take a look at exactly what I'm grading them on and to know ahead of time. This is a typical project that I created where I like to incorporate art into history. So 2 very popular art movements in the 1960s was pop art and Art Nouveau. I have 2 videos here that explain both of the movements. And so after studying the 2 art movements and doing some studying on the 1960s counterculture, I plan on having students create anti-war posters in either of those styles. So this is one that I did have examples for, that I did feminist posters for, and I did some examples using AI. I talked about how I found even fonts that were considered Art Nouveau, how to change the colors to kind of match in with the projects. So when I can, I like to make exemplars for students, and I'll admit I have a little bit of fun doing them. So I put them in, especially in larger projects that are worth a lot of points, especially summative projects. Okay, I have an oral history project, which is to interview or to analyze an interview. So students will have the option of choosing one. They can either find somebody that had involvement in the Vietnam War, or they can choose one of these 3 links where somebody is interviewed who was involved with the Vietnam War. They will then conduct the interview or analyze the interview and answer a series of questions and do a report on whichever choice they made. And then I have a rubric that kind of fits either choice so that it makes it a little easier for me to grade. Okay, the big project of this module is the Vietnam War storybooks. If you can take something that's complex and something that's dark, like the Vietnam War, and break it down in a way that a child can understand, then you really have a higher level grasp of understanding about a topic. So I often have kids create children's storybooks on complicated issues, and one of them is the Vietnam War. So here's an outline of what they have to create. And again, I created an example for them where they can just kind of click through and they could read my example of the Vietnam storybook. Every page has a picture. Every page has a story to tell, all the way to ending it with a beginning. Again, there's a rubric, so it makes it easy to grade and it makes students' expectations very clear. All right, we're going to end the unit with a virtual field trip where they're going to click on the link, and the link is kind of self-guided. I tell them things that I want them to look for, and we're just going to kind of take our time to kind of look at things that we learned about following. Some people might start with that, but I kind of like to end with it when they have an idea of what some of these places are and the meaning behind them. At the end, I have a discussion where I have some links that they can click on, that they can study resources. And then the discussion question of the Vietnam War had a wide-ranging and lasting impact on American culture, politics, and foreign policy. Identify what you think is the most significant long-term effect and explain its importance. And then again, they would have to then report on 2 of their peers' posts. I do set up most of my discussion questions for them not to be able to see the post until they make one themselves. That way they don't just copy what somebody else had to say. I ended with a wrap up on the Vietnam War. Again, I used the same color codes that I used in the overview, where we just did kind of a very short blurb on the review, their key takeaways, which again, I bolded them out so it kind of pops out. I numbered them. The project highlights, I went through each project that we did and what they were supposed to kind of get from that project. And then I have a section where if they want to learn more, there's some links here they can click on and they can learn more about the Vietnam War. And then looking ahead, so our next unit of study is going to be looking at the 1970s. We just got through a really hot time period of the Vietnam War. We're now going to jump into scandals and Watergate, and some of the presidencies is what I'm going to focus in on with the 1970s. So that is how I end my unit. And as you can see, I did use the template, which I eventually found and I enjoyed. And I really enjoyed the class and everything that I learned in the class. And I do plan on using some of this for building future modules. So I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.